The galaxy had always laughed at Earth. To most alien empires, humans were nothing but a forgotten species, stuck on a dangerous world of storms, volcanoes, and endless wars. They were seen as unstable, violent, and too fragile to ever matter among the stars. For centuries, the name human meant nothing but a whisper, a primitive shadow compared to the great civilizations that ruled space. But all of that changed the day a signal appeared. It was not a call for peace. It was not a trade offer. It was a warning. The transmission spread like wildfire through the hyperlanes, echoing across dozens of systems. The message was simple, translated into every tongue of the galaxy. Do not challenge humanity. If you value your life, if you value your worlds, if you value your very bloodlines, stay away. At first, most species laughed. Who were humans to warn the stars? Weak, scattered, barely even united. Yet buried inside that message was something that made even the oldest empires uneasy: human coordinates. The message had been sent deliberately, from the edge of known space, as if daring the galaxy to test them. No one knew who sent it. No one knew how. But in that single moment, humanity was no longer invisible. The Zarkothi Dominion was the first to respond. A proud empire of warriors with fleets larger than entire continents, they saw the message as an insult. The High Warlord stood before his generals and declared, "Let the humans scream their threats. We will show the galaxy what becomes of primitives who bite at giants." The Dominion sent 3 fleets to Earth's border. 100 warships bristling with weapons, their engines glowing like suns. To them, it was not a war. It was sport. But when the fleets arrived, something was wrong. The humans were waiting. Not in fragile ships of old design, not in small colonies desperate for survival. No, their vessels were shadows, sharp and black, with armor that swallowed light. They moved without sound, without hesitation. The Dominion scanners struggled to lock onto them, as if the ships themselves refused to exist. The first battle lasted less than an hour. The Dominion's warships opened fire, unleashing plasma storms and missile swarms. Yet their weapons hit nothing. The human ships darted between them like predators, striking with terrifying precision. One Dominion cruiser after another vanished in silence, their hulls split open as if torn by invisible claws. When the smoke cleared, the humans had not lost a single ship. The Dominion had lost 3 fleets. The galaxy trembled. How had humans done this? Where had they built such ships? How had they risen from nothing to predators capable of shredding one of the galaxy's most powerful empires? Rumors spread. Some said the humans had made a pact with ancient machines, long buried beneath Earth. Others whispered that the humans had always been predators, waiting in the dark until the galaxy grew arrogant enough to forget them. But those who survived the battle spoke of something worse. They spoke of human soldiers. When the Dominion's boarding parties tried to storm the human ships, the real horror was revealed. The soldiers they faced were not normal. They moved with speed that defied reason, strength that bent steel, and eyes that carried something alien, something cold. The Dominion warriors, bred for battle, felt fear for the first time in generations. One survivor's voice shook as he described it to the Galactic Council. They smiled while killing us. Not out of cruelty. Not out of joy. They smiled like hunters, proud that we had given them a real fight. The Council tried to contain the panic. They told their people that the Dominion's loss was an accident, a fluke. But the stars were no longer laughing. The warning from Earth was no longer a joke. Because the message had repeated. Across the galaxy, on every communication channel, the words rang out again. Do not challenge humanity. The truth is fatal. And this time, no one laughed. The galaxy began to whisper. Were humans monsters? Were they conquerors? Or were they something worse? Something born from a world so violent, so cruel, that survival had twisted them into living weapons? No one had an answer. But the fear grew. And deep on Earth, hidden beneath clouds and oceans, humanity watched the galaxy's reaction with calm patience. Their leaders knew the truth that the aliens were only beginning to understand. Humans did not beg for survival. They did not ask for mercy. They gave warnings. And if those warnings were ignored, the stars would learn the cost. The destruction of the Zarkothi Dominion fleets shook the galaxy like a quake. Empires that had ruled for thousands of years now stared at their maps and wondered if they had made a mistake by ignoring Earth. The humans had not only survived, they had hunted one of the galaxy's strongest militaries and left no survivors but broken whispers. But still, not everyone believed. The Volari Union, a proud alliance of scholars and engineers, dismissed the rumors. The Dominion's warriors were reckless, they said in their great council chambers. Humans may have gotten lucky, but luck is not strength. To prove their point, the Volari dispatched their own fleet, not of war but of science. They sent explorers, analysts, machines of logic to study humanity. They wanted to prove to the galaxy that there was no monster in the dark, only frightened primitives playing with stolen weapons. What the Volari found did not calm the galaxy. They sent stealth probes into Earth's orbit, watching, recording, transmitting. They expected to see chaos, a primitive world with scattered nations still fighting one another. Instead, they saw silence. Order. Entire continents glowing with the light of unified industry. Orbital stations circling like watchful eyes. Shipyards the size of cities constructing vessels that had no match in design records. The Volari probes did not remain hidden for long. On the third day, every single probe vanished at once. The Union scientists panicked, demanding answers, but the truth was worse than they expected. The humans had traced the signal. A Volari listening post, orbiting a distant moon, received a transmission. The message was not coded, not scrambled, but clear and sharp. Spying is a challenge. Leave, before it becomes fatal. The Volari Union tried to deny it, but fear spread quickly. Their listening post was found abandoned, its crew gone, their equipment shattered into pieces as if torn apart by unseen hands. No bodies were recovered. The Council of the Galaxy called an emergency meeting. Dozens of species filled the great chamber, their voices raised in panic, anger, and disbelief. Some demanded war. Others demanded silence. None could agree on what to do. And then the humans spoke. For the first time in centuries, a human envoy entered the Galactic Council. The chamber grew silent. Aliens stared in shock at the figure walking to the center podium. He was tall, but not monstrous. His eyes were steady, his steps calm. He did not wear armor or carry weapons. Instead, he wore a simple black uniform, its shoulders marked with a single emblem, Earth. When he spoke, his voice carried like iron. "We warned you." The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of delegates shouted at once, demanding answers, demanding explanations. The humans stood silently until the noise burned itself out. Then he spoke again. "We are not asking for war. We are not seeking conquest. But understand this, our world has shaped us in ways you cannot imagine. Our history is not of peace, but of survival. Every storm, every beast, every rival, we fought them all. And we are still here." The chamber was still. Some stared in disbelief. Others in fear. The human's voice did not waver. "We gave you a warning. Do not challenge us." That warning still stands. But if you doubt us, if you push us, then know this truth: humanity does not forgive. And humanity does not lose. With that, the envoy turned and left the chamber. No guards stopped him. No one dared move. For the first time in thousands of years, the Galactic Council was silent. But silence could not last. The Korath Empire, old rivals of the Dominion, saw an opportunity. "The humans are bluffing," their emperor declared. The Dominion was weak, arrogant. "We are not." He ordered fleets to move toward Earth sector, confident that his empire would succeed where the Dominion had failed. But something strange happened. Before the Korath fleets even reached Earth, they began to vanish. One ship would drop from hyperspace and never be heard from again. Another would send a last, desperate signal, static, screaming, then silence. Entire fleets simply disappeared into the dark. No wreckage. No survivors. The galaxy demanded answers. None came. The Korath Emperor grew desperate and sent his personal flagship with 1,000 ships as escort. They, too, vanished. Until one vessel returned. A single Korath battleship reappeared, drifting, its hull burned and torn. Rescue teams boarded it, expecting corpses. They found only one survivor. A soldier, eyes wide, his mind shattered. When asked what had happened, he spoke only 3 words before collapsing into madness. They were waiting. The galaxy's fear deepened. Humans were no longer a forgotten species. They were no longer a curiosity. They had become something else. Something the galaxy could not explain, could not predict, and could not stop. And in the silence of deep space, on the hidden bridges of their shadowed fleets, the humans prepared. Because they knew the truth. The galaxy would not listen. Not yet. But soon, it would learn. The galaxy no longer laughed at humans. They whispered about them. They feared them. And yet, they could not stop themselves from testing them. The Korath fleets had been erased. The Zarkothi warlords had been humbled. Still, some believed there had to be a weakness. No species could rise so quickly without cracks showing somewhere. No predator could exist without prey. The Zelthari Syndicate was the next to gamble. Unlike the great empires, the Syndicate was not built on armies or fleets. It was built on shadows, spies, assassins, information networks stretching across the stars. To them, brute force was nothing. Power came from secrets, and the humans had too many. "We will peel them open," said the Syndicate leader, a figure wrapped in silks of shifting color. "We will see what makes them strong. And then we will cut it away." They unleashed their agents into human space, silent as knives. Their mission was simple: capture one human alive and bring them back for study. At first, it seemed easy. A lone human freighter was tracked near the edges of a star system. The Syndicate agents disabled it with precision weapons, boarded it, and locked down the corridors. That was their first mistake. Inside the freighter, the human crew did not beg. They did not surrender. They fought back with weapons older, cruder, and far more violent than the Syndicate had ever seen. The agents expected fear. Instead, they found rage. One by one, the Syndicate operatives fell in the smoke and fire of narrow halls, cut down not by soldiers but by traders, engineers, and medics, humans with nothing but desperation in their hands. When the Syndicate finally captured one survivor, they believed victory was theirs. They bound the human in chains of energy and took him back across the stars. The prisoner did not resist. He did not speak. Until the experiments began. The Syndicate's doctors opened their tools, scanning, probing, studying. They wanted to see what made human bodies endure, what made their minds so unshakable. They wanted to know the secret of the smile, the same smile Dominion soldiers had described before death. And then the prisoner laughed. The sound was quiet at first, echoing in the sterile chambers. The alien doctors froze. The laugh grew louder, sharper, until it filled every corner of the lab. "You think you caught me," the human said at last. His voice was calm, too calm. "But you don't understand. I'm not the one trapped here." Before the doctors could react, the alarms sounded. Human ships appeared above the Syndicate's hidden base. Not by accident. Not by chance. They had followed their captured man the whole time, letting the Syndicate think it was in control. Now, in an instant, the hunters became prey. The human warships did not fire on the station. They didn't need to. Instead, they disabled the Syndicate's escape routes, every ship, every gate. The base was sealed, and the shadows had nowhere to run. Inside, the captured human broke his chains as if they were paper. He walked through the corridors with steady steps, leaving silence behind him. The Syndicate agents who tried to stop him never made it to their second strike. When the base finally fell quiet, the humans transmitted a single message to the galaxy. Do not test us again. The galaxy listened. But fear has a strange way of twisting into desperation. Some species began to wonder, could humans be bargained with? Could they be controlled, allied, or even used as weapons against greater enemies? The Dreth Collective tried first. They sent diplomats, bringing gifts of technology and promises of partnership. They stood in Earth's orbit, offering what no one else dared, friendship. The humans listened politely. They did not refuse. But neither did they accept. Instead, they spoke with the same steady voice the envoy had used before the council. We do not need your gifts. We do not need your promises. We need only peace. And for that, we need only one thing: do not challenge us. The Dreth diplomats returned alive, but unsettled. For the first time, they had met a species that could not be bought, could not be tricked, and could not be swayed. The message was spreading now, louder and louder, until even the youngest children of the stars knew it by heart. Do not challenge humanity. The truth is fatal. And yet, in the secret halls of empires, in the quiet whispers of rulers, plans continued to form. For if humans were truly this powerful, then perhaps the galaxy's only hope was not to resist them, but to unite against them. The galaxy had learned fear, but fear rarely brings wisdom. Instead, it often breeds defiance. The warning was clear. The battles were undeniable. Still, whispers filled the star lanes. The empires had begun to see humanity not as a mystery, but as a threat. And threats, in the minds of rulers, must be eliminated. The Council of the Galaxy, once divided, began to unite. Old rivals sat side by side, their hatred for each other buried beneath a single goal: the end of humanity. For the first time in thousands of years, war banners that had once flown against one another were raised together. It was called Operation Silence. A coalition of 12 great powers assembled the largest fleet in recorded history. More than 20,000 ships, armed with the deadliest weapons known to the stars. They claimed it was not an act of war, but of necessity. If humans are allowed to grow unchecked, one counselor declared, they will become predators none of us can stop. We must strike now, before it is too late. The fleet moved toward Earth. Its approach was not subtle. It was a storm, a tidal wave of fire and steel that could wipe out worlds. On every channel, the coalition broadcast their terms. Surrender your weapons. Submit your fleets. Place your worlds under our protection, and you may live. Resist, and humanity will be erased from existence. The galaxy waited for humanity's answer. But Earth did not answer. Not for a day. Not for 2. Not for 3. The fleet drew closer, system by system, demanding submission. Silence was all they received. Until the coalition reached the edge of Sol. Then, the stars themselves seemed to awaken. The coalition's sensors lit with alarms. Shadows moved in the void, thousands of them. Human ships, sleek and black, emerging from the dark like predators surrounding their prey. They had been waiting, hidden, patient. For the first time, the coalition realized the truth. Humans had known. They had expected this. The human fleet did not speak. It did not warn. It simply moved. The first strike came swift. A coalition dreadnought, larger than a city, vanished in silence, its hull sliced apart as if by invisible blades. Panic rippled through the armada. The second strike was faster, tearing through 3 cruisers in a single flash. The battle had begun. The coalition unleashed its fury. 20,000 ships filled the void with fire, missiles, plasma storms, and energy blasts that could rip moons apart. The human fleet danced between them. Their ships moved not like machines, but like hunters, silent, precise, merciless. Coalition ships fell one by one. But the humans did not escape untouched. For the first time, their enemies' sheer numbers pressed them hard. A human destroyer was torn apart by a barrage of plasma fire. A battleship exploded in a blinding light. Humanity bled, but humanity did not break. Inside the chaos, something darker unfolded. Human boarding craft slipped through the storm, attaching themselves to coalition flagships. Where aliens expected elite soldiers, they found something far worse: ordinary humans. Farmers, miners, engineers. People who should not have been soldiers. And yet, they fought like demons. "They don't stop," one coalition captain screamed over comms before his signal died. "They don't stop." Hours turned into days. The battle raged across the Sol system, tearing planets with shockwaves, scattering debris through the black. For every human ship destroyed, 5 coalition ships burned. For every human captured, 10 enemies fell in terror. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the battle ended. The coalition armada was broken. What remained fled into the dark, their admirals silent, their banners torn. Humanity stood bloodied, scarred, but victorious. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. Operation Silence had failed. The greatest fleet in history had been shattered. Humanity had faced the united power of 12 empires, and survived. In the council chamber, the surviving leaders argued in fear and anger. "This is madness," one shouted. "They are too strong. Too dangerous." Another hissed back. "No, they are only mortal. They bleed. We saw them bleed." But none of their words could erase the truth. Humanity had stood against the galaxy itself. And the galaxy had lost. That night, in the ruins of broken ships, humanity sent out a final message. Not to threaten. Not to boast. Simply to remind the stars. "We warned you. The galaxy should have stopped. The galaxy should have learned." But instead, fear twisted into obsession. The coalition had failed, its fleets shattered, its pride destroyed. Yet even in defeat, the rulers of the stars convinced themselves that victory had been close. They told their people, "The humans bled. The humans broke ships. They are not invincible. If we strike again, harder, together, we will end them." But deep down, none of them believed it. And that was when the whispers began. Not from the empires. Not from the councils. From the ordinary people. Traders, miners, travelers across the star lanes. They had begun to tell stories of humanity. Some said human ships could vanish into shadows and reappear behind enemies. Others swore they had seen humans survive wounds that should have killed them. 1,000 stories spread through the markets and taverns of distant worlds, some impossible, some exaggerated, but all carrying the same truth. Humans were not like other species. They were something more. Soon, the whispers turned into fear. Alien mothers warned their children, "Do not wander into the dark. Humans are waiting there." Soldiers muttered in the barracks, "If orders send us against Earth, we will not come back." Merchants avoided human space, terrified that one wrong trade would bring death. The empires tried to silence the rumors, but silence only made them stronger. And then came the event that no one could deny. A world burned. The planet Rel-Thor, proud jewel of the Korath Empire, fell silent. At first, the Empire thought it was a rebellion. Then they thought it was a plague. But when ships were sent to investigate, they found nothing. No fleets. No armies. No population. Only silence. The planet's surface was blackened as though fire had swept across continents. Cities were reduced to glass. Oceans boiled into mist. But there were no signs of weapons, no craters, no radiation. It looked as if the world itself had chosen to die. In the skies above Rel-Thor, one message was carved into the remains of a shattered moon. Letters written with precision, cut into rock so deep that they could be seen from orbit. "Do not challenge humanity." The galaxy froze. No empire claimed responsibility. No empire could explain it. The Korath swore vengeance, but their fleets no longer moved toward Earth. The Rel-Thor event became a legend in a single night. The Council demanded answers from the humans. This time, Earth responded. A transmission filled the chamber. The same envoy appeared, calm, steady, unshaken. You keep asking what we are, he said. You keep asking how we survive. You keep searching for weaknesses. But you will not find them. Not because we are perfect. Not because we are invincible. But because survival is all we have ever known. He paused, letting the silence weigh on them. On our world, death was always near. Storms that tore the sky apart. Beasts that hunted us in the night. Wars that burned across continents. For us, survival was never given, it was earned. And that truth is burned into our blood. You cannot study it. You cannot copy it. You cannot take it from us. It is who we are. The council sat frozen. The envoy leaned closer. You have been warned. Twice. A third warning will not come. The transmission ended. For a long time, the chamber was silent. Then the shouting began, rulers demanding war, others demanding peace, some demanding surrender. But beneath their voices, one truth had already sunk deep into their bones. Rel Thor was gone. And humanity had not even bothered to explain how. The galaxy stood on the edge of panic. Relthor's death was no longer just a warning, it was a shadow spreading across the stars. No empire could explain it, and that made it worse. Armies could be fought. Weapons could be countered. But this was terror with no face. And yet, pride is stronger than fear. The remaining empires whispered in secret halls, their voices bitter and desperate. The humans are using tricks, one ruler said. It is deception, another argued. No species can burn a planet without leaving a trace. But none could deny the truth. If humanity could do it once, they could do it again. So they turned to an idea that no one had dared before. Not a fleet. Not an army. Not a battle. They would build a weapon. The Draxus technocracy, masters of machines, proposed it first. A sun-crushing cannon, able to rip the heart from a star. If the humans' world could not be conquered, it would be erased. Earth itself would be burned into cinders, along with its fleets, its stations, and its people. The project was named Final Dawn. It was the greatest construction the galaxy had ever seen. Hidden in a dead system, thousands of ships carried resources, workers, and slaves. The cannon grew piece by piece, a monstrous skeleton of metal wrapping around a broken star. The council denied knowledge, of course. They spoke of peace while building genocide in silence. But humanity already knew. From the first shipment of ore, from the first whisper in the void, the humans were watching. Their ships, unseen, slipped through the shadows, marking every route, every worker, every weapon. They did not attack. Not yet. They waited. The cannon neared completion. Its core pulsed with stolen suns, its barrel stretched for miles. When it fired, Earth would die. That was the promise the empires whispered to themselves as they prepared to pull the trigger. But before they could, the humans arrived. The attack began without warning. Black ships cut through the system like knives, appearing in silence, surrounding Final Dawn. The defenders panicked. Thousands of coalition warships swarmed to protect the cannon, but humanity had chosen its moment well. The battle was not chaos, it was precision. Human ships struck at weak points, fuel lines, power cores, command bridges. Each explosion was a message. The cannon would not fire. And then, something worse happened. Human troops boarded the weapon itself. They were not soldiers dressed for war. They were quiet, faceless figures in dark armor, moving like ghosts through the corridors. The defenders fired, but the humans kept coming. They fought as if every breath, every step, was already promised to death. Minutes later, the cannon's heart went silent. The humans had taken it. When the defenders tried to retake control, they found the corridors empty. The humans were gone. Only one thing remained, an inscription carved into the walls of the core, in letters that burned with searing light. This was your final dawn. The cannon collapsed into itself, detonating with the power of a dying star. The explosion tore through the system, scattering fleets like dust. Billions watched the blast echo across the void. The galaxy had gambled everything on Final Dawn, and humanity had destroyed it without mercy. From that moment, the truth was undeniable. Humanity was not just a rising species. They were something the galaxy could not fight, could not outthink, could not outbuild. They were inevitable. The Council tried once more to speak. Their envoys begged for negotiation, for compromise, for peace. They spoke of treaties, of borders, of coexistence. But the humans did not answer. Not this time. The galaxy was left to tremble in silence. And somewhere, in the dark halls of Earth's command, the human leaders spoke the truth no alien wanted to hear. They will never stop coming. They will never learn. And so, neither will we. The galaxy had run out of excuses. The Dominion fleets were gone. The Korath worlds had fallen silent. The Syndicate had been broken in its own shadows. Final Dawn, the greatest weapon ever built, had been erased before it could fire a single shot. Every warning had been ignored. Every message had been clear. And now, humanity had stopped speaking. Across the stars, fear turned into silence. Trade routes slowed. Borders closed. Armies no longer marched with pride, but with dread. Whole civilizations asked themselves the same question: what happens when humans decide to strike first? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. It began not with war, but with disappearance. Outposts at the edge of the galaxy fell silent. Colonies on fringe worlds were found abandoned, their cities empty, their skies dark. Fleets sent to investigate never returned. The survivors who stumbled back were broken, their voices trembling with the same words. They're coming. And then they came. Not with one fleet. Not with one world. With many. Human ships poured into alien space, silent and black, striking like hunters in the night. They did not take planets for conquest. They did not burn them for pleasure. They erased resistance and left behind a single message carved into the ruins. We warned you. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity had never wanted war. Humanity had never wanted to rule. But when every warning was ignored, when every line was crossed, there was only one choice left: survival. The Council of the Galaxy tried one last act of desperation. Every empire, every fleet, every soldier was called to defend the capital world of Tvara, the shining jewel of the stars. If humanity was coming, they would face the galaxy's full strength in one final stand. They came. The human fleets arrived like a tide of shadows, their numbers unknown, their weapons unmatched. The battle above Tvara burned for 3 days and 3 nights. The skies became fire, the ground shook with falling wreckage. Aliens fought with courage, but courage was not enough. On the 4th day, the Council sent envoys to surrender. But there was no one to surrender to. The humans did not march into the council chambers. They did not sit on thrones or claim banners. Instead, they transmitted one last message across the galaxy. We warned you. We asked for peace. You gave us war. This is the truth you forced upon yourselves. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not break. And humanity does not forgive. The transmission ended. The humans withdrew. Tvara still stood, scarred but alive. The Council still existed, shaken but breathing. Humanity had not destroyed the galaxy, not yet. But the lesson was clear. The age of laughing at Earth was over. The age of ignoring humanity was gone. From that day forward, children across 1,000 worlds were taught the same words their parents whispered at night. Do not challenge humans. The truth is fatal. And in the silence of space, on the edge of the unknown, humanity prepared, not for conquest, not for mercy, but for whatever came next. Because they knew one truth above all others. The galaxy would never stop fearing them. And they would never stop surviving.